Hello there, level 11 students. Welcome to this video tutorial in which I'm going to explain to you how to use some connecting words that are going to be really useful for you when speaking or writing. Alright, so we're going to begin here with identifying some of the most important connecting words. They are although, even though, despite, in spite of, and however. Those are the ones that we're going to cover. They're very similar to but in meaning. So the first thing that we need to know is to understand the difference between a clause and a sentence. That's going to be essential to understand the use of these connecting words. So a clause is the minimum unit composed of a subject, verb, and complement that makes sense. For example, she dances salsa. I have here. She dances salsa. That is a clause, right? I need to take this meaning into account to understand the use of some connecting words. On the other hand, a sentence can be a clause or a group of clauses that are linked by a connecting word. For example, although he doesn't like noise, he bought an apartment in a busy street. This would be the example of a whole sentence, right? In this case, we're talking about two clauses and they make part of a complete sentence. All right, so let's take a look right here with although, right? Although is to express contrast, right? Also in this case, although he doesn't like noise, so we have a person here who doesn't like noise, doesn't enjoy it, right? But he did something that is not actually, that doesn't make sense based on the fact that he doesn't like noise, because he bought an apartment in a busy street, right? That means that is a noisy place. It's a place with lots of things going on, so it's likely to be really noisy. So although he doesn't like noise, he bought an apartment in a busy street. This also is expressing contrast between these two clauses that make part of the whole sentence. Let's take a look at this example here. Despite knowing how the story ends, I read the whole book, right? So even though I already knew how the story ended, I took the time to read the whole book. Again, I'm expressing contrast. One more time here to express contrast, but I use however, which is a wonderful connector because it helps me link two sentences, right? For example, Colombian food is delicious and everybody loves it. However, it contains lots of fat and is not healthy, right? So look at all the clauses that we are linking here. Colombian food is delicious, everybody loves it, it contains lots of fat, is not healthy. We have like 4 different clauses there, right? We have 2 complete sentences which we link with however, right? However. So in terms of the structure, right, we have to take into account that after despite or after in spite of, we usually use a noun. For example, despite his ability, he couldn't complete the challenge. We're talking about a person who has a lot of abilities, but in that hypothetical case we're talking about, that person was not able to complete the challenge. So despite his ability, he couldn't complete the challenge. And here we can also use after despite a verb plus ing. Despite knowing how the story ends, I read the whole book, which is the example that I had given you previously. You see how the verb here is used with ing. So whenever you use a verb after despite, you have to add ing. Make sure you do that. Okay. Look at the example that the book provides here. Despite appearing rude, etc. Right? Appearing. The verb includes ing. Now, after although or even though, we usually use a clause. You guys already know what a clause is. Remember that it's it should have a subject, a verb, right, and if possible a complement. So here we say although he doesn't like noise, he bought an apartment in a busy street. Even though is the same in terms of structure, right? After even though, we use a clause or a sentence. Even though she lives in Paris, she doesn't speak French. Okay? Even though tends to be stronger than although. You have to take that into account. all right? And in terms of the order, we can put although, even though, and despite and in spite of at the beginning or in the middle of a sentence. That means that I could have written here, she lives in she doesn't speak French even though she lives in Paris, right? We usually put however at the beginning of a sentence. Normally we put it at the beginning of the second sentence that we want to contrast, right? Like in the example that we saw before. And a final tip that you guys have to take into account is that in spoken English, we use though instead of even though or although. For example, I don't like Shakira's music. Neither do I. Her last song is cool though. So instead of saying, although I don't like Shakira's music, which sounds like much more elaborated, in spoken English, which is faster, we would say, her last song is cool though. And that's very common, guys, so you should take that into account. Alright, thanks for your attention. I hope this video tutorial can help you understand the use of some connecting words. Bye bye, level 11, take care.